What if the sweet, grieving daughter comforting you at your mother's funeral was actually the one who killed her? My name is Emily Parker, and this is the story of how my perfect stepsister fooled everyone, including me. She was kind, helpful, devastated by loss, the ideal daughter mourning her mother's tragic accident. But accidents don't just happen. Someone makes them happen. And by the time I figured out who, she'd already started planning her next murder. I should start by saying I liked Catherine from the beginning. Unlike most stories about evil stepmothers, Catherine Whitmore was actually wonderful. She was 55, elegant, successful. She'd built a small empire of boutique hotels across New England. She was warm, funny, and genuinely interested in getting to know me. When my father, David Parker, introduced us 18 months after my mother's death, I was cautiously optimistic. "Emily, this is Catherine," Dad said over dinner at a restaurant in Hartford. "Catherine, this is my daughter Emily. She's a prosecutor in Boston." Catherine's handshake was firm, her smile genuine. "A prosecutor. Your father is so proud of you. He talks about you constantly." "All good things, I hope," I said. "Mostly complaints about how you work too hard and never visit?" Catherine teased, and Dad laughed. It was easy, comfortable, not forced. Catherine didn't try too hard to be my friend or replace my mother. She was just herself. And herself was pretty great. Over the next few months, as Dad and Catherine's relationship grew serious, I got to know her better. She was brilliant in business, generous with her wealth, and she made my father happier than I'd seen him in years. She also had 2 children from her first marriage, Alex, 32, who managed one of her hotels in Providence, and Melissa, 28, who worked in marketing at the corporate office. I met them both at the engagement party. Alex was reserved, polite, clearly protective of his mother. "So, you're the daughter," he said when we were introduced. "Mom talks about you, says you're impressive." "Your mom is being kind," I said. "What about you? Do you like the hotel business?" "It's fine. It's what Mom built, so I help maintain it." Melissa's the ambitious one. She's got plans to expand into boutique resorts, spa properties, big dreams. Melissa appeared at that moment, all smiles and energy. She was petite, blonde, with wide blue eyes and an infectious enthusiasm. "Emily, finally! I've been dying to meet you. Your dad is the sweetest man. Mom is so happy with him." She hugged me before I could extend my hand, a warm, genuine embrace that immediately put me at ease. "I'm so glad they found each other," Melissa continued. "After Dad died, Mom was lonely for so long. She dated here and there, but no one serious until your father. They're perfect together." She was right. They were perfect together. 6 months later, they got married in a small ceremony at Catherine's estate in Greenwich. Just family and close friends. Dad looked happier than I'd seen him since Mom died. Catherine glowed with joy. At the reception, Melissa clinked her glass for a toast. "To my mom and David," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I've never seen my mother this happy. David, you've brought joy back into her life after years of grief. Emily, I know we're not sisters by blood, but I hope we can be sisters by choice. To family, both old and new." Everyone raised their glasses. I found myself genuinely moved. This was what blended families could be, people choosing to love each other, to make space for each other, to create something new together. If only it had lasted. 3 months after the wedding, Catherine fell down the stairs. Dad called me at 2 a.m., his voice shaking. There's been an accident." "Catherine," she fell. "She's gone." "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "Dead. She fell down the main staircase, broke her neck. The paramedics said she died instantly. I drove from Boston to Greenwich, arriving at dawn. The house was chaos: police cars, an ambulance, a medical examiner's van. Inside, Dad sat on the couch, pale and shaking. Melissa was beside him, crying softly, holding his hand. "I'm so sorry," I said, hugging them both. "What happened?" "She fell," Dad said hollowly. "We'd gone to bed around 11. I woke up around 1 and she wasn't there. I went looking and found her, at the bottom of the stairs. Her neck?" He couldn't continue. Melissa took over, her voice steady despite her tears. "The police said it looks like she tripped at the top of the stairs. She was wearing her slippers. They think maybe she slipped or got dizzy. She'd been having headaches lately, remember, Dad? Maybe she got disoriented." "Headaches?" I asked. "For the past few weeks," Melissa said. She saw a doctor, but they said it was probably stress. Mom had been working so hard on the resort expansion project. A police detective, Detective Raymond Chen, approached us. Mr. Parker, I'm very sorry for your loss. We'll need to ask you a few questions when you're ready. Questions? Dad looked confused. It was an accident. Standard procedure in any sudden death, Detective Chen said gently. Just need to establish a timeline. Make sure we document everything properly. They questioned Dad for about 30 minutes. Where were you when it happened? Did you hear anything? Had your wife been drinking? Any marital problems? Any financial difficulties? Routine questions. But they made Dad look guilty, defensive. Alex arrived while the questioning was happening. He looked devastated, eyes red, face drawn. Where is she? Where's my mother? The medical examiner took her, Melissa said, getting up to hug her brother. Alex, she's gone. She fell down the stairs. Fell? How does someone just fall? It was an accident, Melissa said firmly. A horrible, tragic accident. But Alex was staring at Dad with an expression I couldn't quite read. Suspicion? Grief? Accusation? Catherine's funeral was held a week later. It was a large service. She'd been well known in business circles, active in charity work, beloved by her employees. Melissa gave a eulogy that had everyone in tears. My mother was the strongest person I knew, she said, her voice breaking. She built an empire from nothing. She raised Alex and me alone after our father died. She was generous, kind, brilliant. And in her final years, she found love again with David. She was happy, truly happy, and I'm grateful she had that before this tragedy. She looked at Dad, who sat in the front row with his head bowed. David, I know you loved her. I know this is as devastating for you as it is for us. You're family now. You always will be. It was a beautiful sentiment, the perfect thing to say. Everyone nodded approvingly. But I noticed Alex didn't nod. He sat rigid, his jaw clenched, staring straight ahead. After the funeral, we gathered at the estate for a reception. That's when Catherine's lawyer, Martin Ross, approached Dad, Melissa, Alex, and me. I know the timing is terrible, but we should discuss Catherine's will. She updated it recently, and there are some things we need to address. We met in Catherine's study, a room she'd used for her business dealings, lined with books and awards. Martin pulled out a folder. Catherine changed her will 3 days before she died. The changes were significant. My stomach dropped. 3 days before she died? Previously, Catherine had divided her estate equally between her children Alex and Melissa, each getting 50% of her assets in the business. But in the new will, she left everything to her husband, David Parker. Silence. Everything? Alex said finally, his voice tight. The business, the properties, the personal assets. Approximately $60 million in total. David inherits it all. Alex and Melissa each receive a token bequest of $100,000. And Catherine specified that they should continue working for the company if they choose, but David has full ownership and control. Melissa gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. But why would she do that? The will doesn't specify her reasoning, but it was witnessed properly and filed legally. There's no question about its validity. Alex stood abruptly. This is bullshit. My mother would never cut us out like that. Not after we've spent our entire lives helping build that business. I'm sorry, Alex, Martin said. But these were her wishes. Or someone convinced her to change her wishes, Alex said, looking directly at Dad. How convenient that she changed her will 3 days before dying. Alex, I didn't know, Dad started. Didn't know she changed her will? Or didn't know she was about to have a fatal accident? That's enough, I said sharply. My father loved Catherine. He would never... Wouldn't he? He's a retired accountant living on a modest pension. He marries a wealthy woman, convinces her to change her will, and 3 days later she's dead. You're a prosecutor, Emily. What would you think if you saw that case file? I wanted to defend Dad. But Alex was right. It looked bad. Really bad. The police said it was an accident? Melissa said quietly. We all know it was an accident. Alex, I'm devastated too, but we can't turn on each other. Mom wouldn't want that. Alex looked at his sister, then at Dad, then at me. I want an autopsy. A full toxicology screen. If my mother's death was truly an accident, fine. But if there's even a chance it wasn't, there will be an autopsy, Martin said. It's standard in sudden deaths. The medical examiner will perform a full examination. Good, Alex said. He walked out, slamming the door behind him. Melissa looked apologetically at Dad. I'm so sorry. Alex is just... He's in shock. We all are. He doesn't mean it. But I thought maybe Alex did mean it. And maybe he had reason to. Over the next few weeks, I noticed changes in Dad. He moved through Catherine's house like he owned it, which, legally, he did. He made decisions about the business without consulting Alex or Melissa. He hired new managers, changed vendors, restructured departments. Dad, shouldn't you wait? I asked during one of my visits. Let Alex and Melissa have input? They know the business. I'm being decisive, Dad said. Catherine left this to me because she trusted my judgment. I'm not going to second guess her. But his decisiveness felt cold, calculated. Nothing like the warm, gentle father I'd always known. He also seemed different physically, sharper somehow, more energetic, less like a grieving widower and more like a man who'd just won the lottery. Which, in a sense, he had. One evening, I was helping Dad sort through some of Catherine's belongings when I went to use the master bathroom. In the medicine cabinet, I found several prescription bottles, all in Dad's name, all prescribed in the past month. Warfarin, lorazepam, zolpidem, blood thinners, anti-anxiety medication, sleeping pills. Why would Dad need these? He'd always been healthy. And why were they prescribed so recently after Catherine's death? I photographed the bottles with my phone, then rejoined Dad in the bedroom. Dad, are you feeling okay? I noticed some medications in your bathroom. Just some things Dr. Patterson prescribed after Catherine died, to help me cope with the stress. Blood thinners? I've been having some circulation issues. Nothing serious. But he wouldn't meet my eyes when he said it. A few days later, I got a call from an unknown number. Emily Parker? Yes, who is this? It's Alex Walsh, Catherine's son. We need to talk about your father. Alex, if this is about the will. It's not about the will, it's about murder. I think your father killed my mother, and I think I can prove it. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Stamford Neutral Territory. Alex looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Dark circles under his eyes, rumpled clothes, a desperate intensity in his expression. Thank you for meeting me, he said. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. Alex, my father isn't a murderer. Then why did he convince my mother to change her will 3 days before she died? Why is he making massive changes to her business without any respect for what she built? Why does he seem completely unemotional about her death? People grieve differently. This isn't grief, this is guilt. Or satisfaction. I can't tell which, but it's not grief. I wanted to defend Dad, but I'd been thinking the same things. The autopsy results came back, Alex continued. The medical examiner found high levels of diphenhydramine in my mother's system. Diphenhydramine? That's just Benadryl. In high doses, it causes severe drowsiness, dizziness, confusion. The medical examiner said the amount in her system would have made her extremely unsteady. She didn't just trip at the top of the stairs, Emily. She was drugged first. That doesn't mean she was murdered. Maybe she took too much by accident. My mother never took Benadryl. She wasn't allergic to anything. She had no reason to take it. Someone gave it to her, and the only person in the house that night was your father. The medical examiner ruled it an accident. Because they can't prove intent. High levels of an over-the-counter drug, a fall down the stairs, it could be accidental. But Emily, I know my mother. She was careful. She wouldn't have taken medication she didn't need, and she definitely wouldn't have changed her will to cut out her children unless someone pressured her to do it. I thought about Dad's cold behavior, the medications in his bathroom, the way he'd so quickly taken control of Catherine's business and money. What do you want from me? I asked. I want you to help me investigate. You're a prosecutor, you know how to build a case, and you have access to your father. You can observe him, look for evidence. You want me to spy on my own father? I want you to help me find the truth. If your father is innocent, then we'll prove it and I'll leave him alone. But if he's guilty, Alex's voice broke. My mother deserves justice. I sat there, torn. This was my father. The man who'd raised me, who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd walked me down the aisle at my wedding before it fell apart, who'd been my rock when Mom died. But he was also acting like a stranger. And Alex's suspicions weren't baseless. Okay, I said finally. I'll help you investigate. But if we find evidence that my father is innocent, you have to accept it and move on. Deal. And if we find evidence that he's guilty, then we go to the police, together. Over the next 2 weeks, Alex and I became unlikely partners. We reviewed Catherine's finances, looking for any evidence that Dad had manipulated her. We interviewed her employees, friends, anyone who might have noticed changes in her behavior before she died. We discovered several concerning things. Catherine had been having headaches and dizzy spells for about 3 weeks before she died. Her assistant said she'd been uncharacteristically forgetful, missing meetings, seeming confused. The will change had been Catherine's idea, according to her lawyer, but she'd insisted on making the change quickly, which was unusual for her. She'd always been deliberate about business decisions. Dad had been alone with Catherine the night she died. He claimed he was asleep when she fell, but there was no way to verify that. And then there were those medications in Dad's bathroom. I'd researched them: warfarin, lorazepam, zolpidem. Together, they could cause confusion, dizziness, and poor coordination. Exactly what Catherine had experienced before her death. What if Dad wasn't taking these medications? I said to Alex. What if he was giving them to Catherine? That's what I've been thinking. If he crushed them up, put them in her food or drink over several weeks, it would explain the headaches, the confusion, everything. Then, when she was disoriented enough, he pushed her down the stairs. But why? Dad had his own money. He wasn't wealthy, but he was comfortable. Why kill someone for money? $60 million is a lot of comfort, Alex said darkly. I couldn't argue with that. We decided we needed to search Dad's house. But we couldn't just break in, we needed a legitimate reason to be there. Tell him you want to help him sort through Catherine's things, Alex suggested. Look for anything suspicious, especially look for evidence that he was drugging her. I arranged to visit Dad the following Saturday. I told him I wanted to help pack up Catherine's clothes for donation, which he agreed to without suspicion. While Dad was on a business call, I searched the house. In the kitchen, I found nothing unusual. In Dad's office, just normal paperwork. In the bedroom, that's when I found it. A hidden compartment in the back of Dad's nightstand drawer. Inside, a small plastic bag containing white powder residue, and a notebook with dates and doses written in Dad's handwriting. My hands shook as I photographed everything. This was evidence. Evidence that Dad had been planning something. Evidence that he'd been administering some kind of substance. Evidence that Alex might be right about everything. I was putting everything back when I heard voices downstairs. Dad was off his call, and someone else had arrived. I quickly closed the drawer and went downstairs. Melissa was there, looking concerned. Emily, I didn't know you were visiting today. Hi, David. Melissa offered to help go through Catherine's office files, Dad said. Separate business from personal documents. That's kind of you, I said, studying Melissa. She looked tired, worn. Grief, I assumed. I want to help, Melissa said simply. Mom's business was her life. I want to make sure everything is handled properly. She seemed genuine. Unlike Alex, Melissa had been nothing but supportive of Dad. She'd defended him against Alex's accusations. She'd helped him navigate the business transition. If Dad was guilty, Melissa was either in denial or what? Complicit? That seemed impossible. She'd loved her mother. That evening, I met Alex at the coffee shop again. I showed him the photos of what I'd found. What is this powder? Alex asked. I don't know. Could be crushed pills, could be something else. We'd need to test it. And these dates in the notebook? They correspond to Catherine's symptoms timeline. 3 weeks of dates with doses listed. Alex, I think my father really did this. Saying it out loud made it real. My father, the man I'd loved and trusted my entire life, was a murderer. Alex looked at me with something like sympathy. I'm sorry, Emily, I know this is hard. We need to get this evidence tested, and we need to go to the police. Agreed. But Emily, we need to be careful. If your father realizes we're investigating him, he might destroy evidence, or worse. Worse? You're the main witness to his behavior. You have access to his house. If he thinks you're a threat, my father wouldn't hurt me. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true anymore. If Dad could kill Catherine for money, what would he do to protect himself? Before we could get the evidence tested, everything fell apart. Dad called me, his voice panicked. Emily, I'm in the hospital. I think someone's trying to kill me. What? Dad, what happened? I woke up feeling terrible, dizzy, nauseous, weak. I drove myself to the ER and they said I have toxic levels of anticoagulants in my blood. I'm bleeding internally. Emily, someone's been poisoning me. I raced to Greenwich Hospital. Dad was in the ER, pale and weak, with IV lines running into his arms. They're giving me vitamin K to reverse the blood thinners, he said. The doctor said if I'd waited another day, I might have bled to death internally. Dad, do you have any idea who would do this? It has to be Alex, Dad said. He's been accusing me of killing Catherine. Maybe he decided to take revenge. That was ridiculous. Alex had been with me. He couldn't have poisoned Dad. Unless... Dad, where have you been eating? Who's had access to your food? I've been eating at home mostly. Melissa has been bringing me meals from Catherine's favorite restaurant. She's been so kind, trying to help me through the grief. Melissa. Sweet, helpful, grieving Melissa, who had access to the house, who brought Dad food, who had defended Dad against Alex's accusations a little too perfectly. Dad, I need to go. Don't eat or drink anything Melissa brings you. I'll explain later. I called Alex. We need to talk. Now. It's not about my father, it's about your sister. We met at the hospital parking lot. I told Alex about Dad being poisoned, about Melissa bringing him food. You think Melissa is poisoning him? Alex looked shocked. That's insane. Melissa loved Mom. She's been devastated. Has she, though? Or has she been pretending? Why would she poison David? She gets nothing from his death. Mom left everything to him. But if Dad dies, who inherits? Alex went pale. Jesus. If David dies without changing the will, the estate would go to his next of kin. You. Right, but I'm Dad's biological daughter. I'd inherit regardless. But Melissa. If she could get rid of both Dad and me, and if she'd already killed Catherine, she'd inherit everything as Catherine's daughter, Alex finished. But Emily, that's crazy. Melissa isn't a murderer. Isn't she? Alex, think about it. Catherine's headaches and confusion started around the same time Melissa took a more active role in the household. Melissa was always at the house, always bringing Catherine tea and meals. And Catherine changed her will 3 days before she died, who suggested she visit the lawyer. Melissa did, Alex said slowly. She said Mom needed to update her estate plan now that she was married. But I thought she meant making sure David was included, not cutting us out. What if Melissa convinced Catherine to leave everything to Dad because she was planning to kill them both? Kill Catherine first, frame Dad or make it look like an accident, then kill Dad and inherit everything as the stepdaughter? But Catherine fell down the stairs. How is that Melissa's fault? The diphenhydramine in Catherine's system. What if Melissa was the one drugging her? What if Melissa pushed her? Alex shook his head. This is insane. Melissa is my sister. I've known her my whole life. Have you? Alex, I'm a prosecutor. I've seen cases like this. Sometimes the people who seem most innocent are the most dangerous. And Melissa has been perfectly positioned to manipulate everyone, me, Dad, you, the police. She's been the grieving daughter, the helpful stepdaughter, the voice of reason telling everyone it was just an accident. If you're right, if Melissa really did this. Alex looked sick. We need proof. And we need to stop her before she kills David. We decided to set a trap. Alex would confront Melissa, tell her he suspected Dad of killing Catherine, and suggest they needed to gather evidence before going to the police. We'd record the conversation and see how Melissa reacted. If she was innocent, she'd be horrified and agree to help. If she was guilty, she might reveal something incriminating. Alex wore a hidden recording device when he met Melissa at a cafe in Greenwich. I listened from my car in the parking lot through an earbud connected to Alex's phone. Melissa, we need to talk about Mom's death, Alex said. Alex, not this again. I thought we agreed it was an accident. I don't think it was. I think David killed her, and I think I can prove it. There was a pause. What kind of proof? Medical evidence showing Mom was drugged before she fell. Financial records showing David pressured her to change her will. And I think Emily might testify against her own father if the evidence is strong enough. Emily knows about this? She's the one who found some of the evidence. She's been helping me investigate. Another pause. Longer this time? Alex, even if you're right, what can we do? The police already ruled it an accident. We reopen the investigation. We go to the district attorney with everything we found. David would be arrested, charged with murder. And Mom's will would be invalidated property obtained through murder can't be inherited. Everything would revert to us, like it should have been all along. That makes sense, Melissa said slowly. When were you planning to go to the DA? Soon. Maybe this week. But I wanted to tell you first. Give you a chance to prepare. I know this is hard. You've been defending David and finding out he killed Mom. Actually, I'm relieved, Melissa interrupted. Relieved? That you finally figured it out. I've been waiting for someone to realize what happened. I just didn't expect it to take so long. In my car, I sat up straight. This was it. So you agree David killed her? Alex pressed. Oh, David didn't kill her, Alex. I did. The words hung in the air. What? I killed Mom. I pushed her down the stairs after drugging her for weeks, and honestly, it was easier than I expected. Everyone just accepted it was an accident. Melissa, are you joking? Because that's not funny. Do I sound like I'm joking? Alex, I killed our mother for her money. Well, technically for David's money once he inherits, but then I was going to kill him too and inherit everything myself. $60 million, Alex. All for me. You're insane. I'm practical. Mom was never going to retire and let us run the business. She was always going to be in control, making all the decisions, treating us like employees instead of owners. I got tired of waiting for my inheritance, so I decided to speed things up. By murdering our mother? It was surprisingly easy. Crush up some pills in her tea every day, make her dizzy and confused. Then suggest she update her will to include her new husband. But really, I wrote the will to exclude us and give everything to David. Then one push down the stairs, call 911, cry convincingly. Done. And David? David was supposed to die this week. I've been poisoning him with warfarin, same way I poisoned Mom, but different drug. He would have died of internal bleeding, and everyone would think he killed himself out of guilt for killing Mom. Then Emily would inherit, and I'd console her, become her best friend, and eventually she'd have an accident too. Then, as Catherine's daughter and last surviving family member, I'd get everything. You're a monster. Melissa laughed. I'm a realist. And you know what's funny? You just confessed that Emily has been helping you investigate David, which means I need to accelerate my timeline. Emily needs to die tonight. And honestly, Alex, so do you. You know too much now. You think you can kill me right here? Not here. But accidents happen all the time. You're distraught about Mom's death, investigating obsessively, not sleeping. A car accident on the way home? A fall from your balcony? So tragic. And with you and Emily gone, David becomes the obvious suspect for everything. He'll be arrested, tried, convicted, and I'll inherit it all while playing the traumatized stepdaughter. I was already calling 911 when I heard the sound of a struggle through the earbud. Alex! I screamed, jumping out of my car. I ran into the cafe. Alex and Melissa were fighting. She had something in her hand, a syringe, and was trying to stab him with it. I grabbed a chair and swung it at Melissa, hitting her arm. The syringe flew across the room. Emily! Melissa's expression shifted from rage to fear to innocence in a heartbeat. Emily, thank God. Alex has gone crazy. He attacked me, said I killed Mom. Save it, I said coldly. We recorded everything. Every word you just said about killing Catherine and planning to kill me, Alex, and my father. Melissa's mask finally dropped completely. What remained was pure calculation. The recording won't be admissible. You recorded me without my consent. Actually, this is Connecticut. We only need one-party consent for recordings, and Alex consented to being recorded. Your confession is perfectly legal. Sirens wailed in the distance. Melissa looked between me and Alex, assessing her options. Then she ran. She made it to the parking lot before Detective Chen and 3 other officers surrounded her. Melissa Walsh, you're under arrest for the murder of Catherine Parker and the attempted murders of David Parker and Alex Walsh. As they handcuffed her, Melissa finally broke. You don't understand. That money should have been mine. I spent my whole life building that business with her. I deserved it more than some random man she married. More than her lazy son who never had ambition. I earned that money. You're not entitled to anyone's life, Alex said quietly. Not Mom's, not David's, not Emily's. They put Melissa in the patrol car. She was still screaming about how unfair it all was, how she deserved the inheritance, how we'd ruined everything. The evidence against Melissa was overwhelming. The recording of her confession. The syringe she tried to use on Alex, filled with a lethal dose of potassium chloride. Dad's testimony about the warfarin poisoning. The white powder in Dad's nightstand, which turned out to be ground-up diphenhydramine, the same drug found in Catherine's system. Melissa had planted the powder and notebook in Dad's room to frame him. She'd been setting him up from the beginning. The investigation also uncovered Melissa's financial situation. She was deeply in debt from gambling and bad investments. She'd been stealing from Catherine's business for years, covering it up through creative accounting. She'd been desperate enough to kill her own mother. Dad recovered fully from the warfarin poisoning. The doctor said if he'd waited another day, he might not have made it. "I can't believe I didn't see it," Dad said as we sat in his hospital room. "Melissa was always so helpful, so kind, bringing me meals, checking on me, helping with business decisions. I thought she was just being a good stepdaughter." "She fooled everyone," I said. "That's what makes her so dangerous. She knew exactly how to act, what to say, how to manipulate people's emotions." "I'm sorry," Dad said, "for how I've been acting these past few weeks. The grief, the stress, the medications, I wasn't myself." "I know, Dad, and I'm sorry I suspected you, even for a moment. You were doing your job, following the evidence. I'm proud of you, Em." Alex visited Dad in the hospital the next day. It was awkward at first. Alex had spent weeks convinced Dad was a murderer. "I owe you an apology," Alex said. "I accused you of killing my mother. I investigated you, suspected you, tried to build a case against you, and you were innocent the whole time." "You were trying to find the truth," Dad said. "You were trying to get justice for your mother. I understand that. I'd have done the same thing. Still, I'm sorry." Apology accepted. "And Alex? I'm sorry about Catherine. She was an incredible woman. I loved her. And I'm sorry we only had 3 months together before my sister murdered her," Alex finished. Jesus, how did I not see it? How did I not know Melissa was capable of this? "None of us knew," I said. "She was that good at hiding it." Melissa's trial was held 6 months later. The prosecution's case was airtight. Her recorded confession, the syringe with potassium chloride, Dad's medical records showing warfarin poisoning, Catherine's toxicology report showing diphenhydramine, the forged will that benefited Melissa once Dad was dead, financial records showing Melissa's debts and embezzlement. Melissa's defense tried to argue temporary insanity, that she'd had a breakdown after her mother's marriage, that she wasn't in her right mind. But the evidence showed premeditation, weeks of careful planning, manipulation of multiple people, systematic poisoning. This wasn't a crime of passion or a mental breakdown. This was calculated murder for financial gain. I testified about the investigation, the recording, the confession. Alex testified about his mother's strange behavior before her death, the will change, Melissa's financial situation. Dad testified about the warfarin poisoning, about trusting Melissa, about how she'd positioned herself as his ally while slowly killing him. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder of Catherine Parker, attempted murder of David Parker, attempted murder of Alex Walsh, fraud, embezzlement. The judge sentenced Melissa to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As they led her away, Melissa looked at me one last time. No tears, no emotion, just cold calculation. "You should have let me finish," she said. "You would have been rich. We could have split everything." "I'd rather be poor and alive," I said, "with a soul intact." Melissa smiled a terrible, empty smile. Souls don't buy hotels. The months after the trial were strange. Dad inherited Catherine's estate as her legal widower, but he immediately set up a trust to divide everything equally with Alex. "It's what Catherine would have wanted," Dad said. "Her money going to her son. I don't need $60 million, I just need enough to live comfortably." Alex tried to refuse. "You're legally entitled to it. Catherine left it to you. Catherine was murdered before she could change her will again. I think she would have provided for you and..." Dad paused. "And Melissa." Before we knew what Melissa really was. Eventually, Alex accepted. They worked out an arrangement where Alex would run Catherine's business as CEO, with Dad as a silent partner providing guidance when needed. "Your mother built something incredible," Dad told Alex. "You should be the one to carry it forward." Alex and I had been spending a lot of time together during the investigation and trial. What started as a partnership born of tragedy and suspicion had turned into genuine friendship. And then, slowly, something more. We didn't plan it, didn't expect it, but somewhere between investigating a murder and saving each other's lives, we'd fallen in love. "This is weird, right?" I said one evening as we had dinner at a restaurant in Providence. Falling for your former suspect's son? Which one of us was the suspect? Alex asked with a slight smile. You suspected my family. I suspected yours. We were both wrong about who the real killer was. True. But still, your mother married my father, which makes us, what? Former step-siblings? Not really. We were never step-siblings. Our parents were married for 3 months. And now, he reached across the table to take my hand. Now we're just two people who went through something terrible together and came out the other side. Two people who fell in love during a murder investigation. Is that so strange? We were both fighting for the truth, for justice, for our families. That's a pretty good foundation. He was right. We'd seen each other at our worst grieving, suspicious, scared, and we'd still chosen each other. 6 months after Melissa's conviction, Dad asked Alex and me to meet him at the Greenwich house. We hadn't been back since Catherine died. Dad had been living in a smaller condo in Stamford, unable to face the memories. But when we arrived, the house looked different. Renovated, brighter. The staircase where Catherine died had been rebuilt with a different design. I couldn't let this house stay frozen in tragedy, Dad said. Catherine loved this place. She put so much work into making it beautiful. So I had it renovated not to erase what happened, but to honor what she built. He showed us around. The rooms had been repainted, new furniture, family photos of Catherine's life before the tragedy, celebrating who she was rather than how she died. I'm turning it into a retreat center, Dad explained, for families dealing with grief and trauma. Catherine's Hope House, I'm calling it, a place where people can heal. Dad, that's beautiful, I said. It's what she would have wanted, using her resources to help people. And Alex, I'd like you to serve on the board if you're willing. Help guide how we use the property. I'd be honored, Alex said. We stood together in Catherine's former study, now a bright counseling room with windows overlooking the garden. I've been thinking a lot about family, Dad said, about what it means. Catherine and I were only married 3 months, but she changed my life. She brought love and joy back after your mother's death, Emily. And Alex, your mother was an incredible woman who didn't deserve what happened to her. Thank you, Alex said quietly. What I'm trying to say is you two being together, building something good out of this tragedy, I think Catherine would approve. I think she'd be happy that her son found someone who makes him happy. Alex and I looked at each other. We've been taking things slow, I said, given everything that happened. But we're happy, Alex added. Really happy. Dad smiled a genuine smile, the first I'd seen from him in months. Then I'm happy. That's what matters. Building something good from something terrible. Choosing love over bitterness. Choosing healing over revenge. A year after Melissa's conviction, Alex and I brought white roses to Catherine's grave. Alex admitted he missed her every day and still struggled with anger and guilt. I reminded him Melissa had fooled everyone. He couldn't blame himself for not seeing who she really was. Despite the tragedy, Alex and I agreed that something good had emerged from it. We'd found each other. That night, we had dinner with Dad at Catherine's Hope House, now thriving and helping dozens of families heal. Catherine would have been proud. Later, walking through the gardens Catherine loved, Alex stopped and told me he wanted a future with me. He said he loved me not because of what we'd lived through, but because of who I was. Then he proposed. I thought of Catherine's courage, her second chance at love, and I said yes. 8 months later, we were married at Catherine's Hope House in a small, intimate ceremony. We planted a tree in her honor and exchanged personal vows about love, truth, and choosing healing over bitterness. At the reception, Dad toasted Catherine's memory and spoke about how love, despite everything, had brought our families together. Guests echoed, "To Catherine." Later, Alex and I stood on the terrace overlooking the gardens. He said Melissa still sent letters from prison, but neither he nor Dad read them. We couldn't change her choices, only ours. We talked about Catherine, how she didn't get the long life she deserved, but how her legacy continued through the Hope House, Alex's work, and our new family. Under the stars, surrounded by warmth and healing, we knew we were honoring her the best way possible, by building something beautiful where tragedy once lived. Love was Catherine's final gift, and we intended to carry it forward. This is Emily Parker now. Emily Walsh reminding you that even in our darkest moments, we have a choice. We can let tragedy destroy us, or we can use it to become stronger, kinder, more loving. If this story moved you, Please like this video and subscribe for more stories about surviving family betrayal and finding hope in unexpected places. Leave a comment. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you heal? What helped you choose love over bitterness? Remember, the people who seem most innocent sometimes aren't. Trust your instincts, investigate your suspicions, and when tragedy strikes, look for the helpers, the allies who emerge from unexpected places.